You can gather a lot about the SB150 from just two numbers. 64.5, its head angle, and 77, its seat angle. The radical numbers don't stop there, but that's enough to indicate that this bike is intended to climb and descend our rugged southwest Utah test loop with as little compromise as possible.
It'd be a good bike if you're Richie Rude.
What if you're Michael Ferrantino?
It's still a really good bike. It's just, again, every year this happens, there's a bike that I am shown all my shortcomings come to light in. And I thought this bike was incredible in terms of how well the suspension worked and how it performed at speed. It was so easy to ride fast, but to me, it wasn't so easy to ride slow. And because I'm old and slow, a certain amount of the riding I do is at low speed. And this bike, it was harder for me to get the front to stick in some of the turns. And in some of that ledgy, technical slow going, it felt like it was an inch or so longer than I wanted it to be. That doesn't detract from how amazing it is.
Yeah. And I think what you're sort of getting at there in terms of how amazing it still is some like pedaling efficiency, I think we all felt. It's got a really nice platform, seated, standing, whatever. And you don't expect that out of a bike that's this capable on the descents.
Yeah, this is a gravity-oriented bike that pedals just masterfully.
Yeah.
So part of that is they updated the leverage curve this year. It has, I mean, everything's slightly progressive, but it has a more like flat progressive curve. So there's no like hammock in it. So there's pretty much everywhere you go in the stroke, there's something to push against. So it's really supportive. And also there's a Switch Infinity. Like really one of the most impressive pedaling platforms out there. Like it was an easy bike to push through even on my third lap when I rode it.
Yeah. Where it wasn't so easy to push through was corners. I think, you know, we spent a lot of time on bikes like the Ibis Ritmo, the Evil Offering, the Fazari LaSalle Peak. And to me, this sort of crossed a threshold where corners required a conscious forward weight shift. Whereas on those bikes, you know, you still had to weight the front end, but you could sort of do it with your upper body. On the SB150, I felt like I had to shift my hips forward a little bit and sort of actually get over the front a little more.
So to your point exactly about the handling, I'm the shortest of the three of us who were on that bike, and it was a struggle for me to get over the front the way I needed to be to get the front to stick in corners. The faster you went, the easier that got. But the slower we were going, the more I felt like I had to move around to kind of get to be where I needed on the bike, to get the front where I wanted it to be.
To be clear, I mean, it did require some thought, but when I was doing it, when I was moving forward, I mean, the bike corners well. It carves well, it holds traction well.
Yeah.
I mean, and this bike makes it as easy as possible to make that leap. I mean, the rear suspension is gonna hug the ground, and they do that generous extra 20 millimeters of front suspension and a 170 mil fork on a 29er. I mean, that is beastly. It really encourages you as much as it can to ride a little bit differently. I got along better with its maneuverability than either of you guys did. I'm comparing it to other big beastly 29ers, and I keep going back to the Evil Reckoning, which is big and beastly, I think, to a fault. It is really sensitive for, gosh, the first half of the travel, almost in a way that you get a little bit lost in it. This one, for a bike that has numbers that would seem to really put it in a niche, I think it does everything it can to appeal to as many riding styles as possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you were just to look at it by the numbers alone, it is one of the longest bikes we've ever tested. It has a ton of travel and huge wheels, and all the numbers just scream sled, and it is that personified, and one of the best high-speed bikes I think any of us have ridden. But it does work really well in a lot of other places where you just don't expect a bike this big to behave at all.
Yeah.
Like my basis for comparison would be last year when we had the Transition Sentinel. This feels very much like that. Like it's a Sentinel, but with better suspension. And that bike I loved, but also it took some adaptation too, and I still admit that I just do not have the horsepower or the balls to really make the most of that kind of bike. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I was picking through that, like, chundering descent that we've been riding. Well, on this bike, I wasn't picking through it. First of all, I was just sort of mocking along, and you don't have to, and I didn't really feel like I could. I mean, there were a couple times when I shut it down because there was a tight corner I just had to get around, and I think I probably had to slow down a little more on this bike than on others. But I mean, I gotta think I was going a lot faster on this than I was on the Ritmo or bikes in that class.
So yeah, the SB150 is a special bike, and undoubtedly part of what made our test bike so special was the Fox Float X2 shock that let each tester adjust the suspension to suit their needs. This bike needs even a shock like the X2 to reach its full potential, but you have to spend $7,600 to get one in a stock build. So this is a Yeti. People joke about it as being a dentist bike or an optometrist bike.
Enduro dentists.
Scary enduro dentists.
Yeah.
Burly, big-knuckled enduro dentists.
Like Little Shop of Horrors enduro dentists.
Yeah.
Like
I can't imagine Rick Moranis on this thing now.
Steve Martin.
Rick Moranis was in that, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he wasn't the
He
dentist.
was Seymour.
Steve Martin was the dentist.
Oh yeah, shit.
Yeah.
And I could totally see Steve Martin as a sadistic dentist on this bike.
But it's kind of a big price tag to get into all this stuff we're talking about. I mean, you're going to be above $5,000 if you want to get into this at the entry level. And do you guys think it's worth it?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if this is what you want, then this is it.
Yeah.
We got a ton of bikes here that are in that $5,000 and up range. That seems to be where the middle of the market is these days, whether you want to accept that grim economic reality or not. It's probably about to get more expensive soon. But I would say not only would I accept that that is the entry price, but I would expect that I'd be spending another couple grand on top of that, because I'd want the super mega hella adjustable suspension, and I'd want a nice set of carbon wheels.
Yeah.
Because it's that good of a bike, and you don't want to shortchange it.
Cost is sort of besides the point here, or at least when you're talking about a Yeti, you have to factor in the novelty of Switch Infinity. It allows the SB150 to be on the forefront of what a single crown bike can endure, all while remaining a formidable climber. To some, that'll make the SB150 worth every penny. For the rest, check out bikemag.com where you'll find more Bible reviews.